So which is more important? Is it the AI platforms, or is it Google, or is it both?
The most important shift in AI right now that anyone could learn is stop chatting with AI, start delegating jobs to it.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business. We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Hey, everybody, again, Dave Fanale here, Real Estate Talk TGIF. Today we have Phil Stringer. Look, Phil, you joined General Electric in your first year, became the #1 sales agent worldwide, producing at more than 13 times company average. But before that, you had already been had built a six-figure business as a teenager. Then came real estate, entrepreneurship, and eventually AI. Today, Phil, you teach and reach more than 5 million people, and you become one of the leading voices teaching businesses how to use AI to make more money, waste less time, and completely rethink how they work. I mean, you've been on Fox, NBC, Good Morning America, Today Show, and many, many more. But here's the scary part. I don't think you think that we've seen it all yet, that there's so much more coming. And if it's AI 101, there's more to it than that. I want to know what's coming next. So this should be fun. Welcome, Phil Stringer.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, that's quite an intro. I appreciate that.
All right, man. So before we get started, here's one question I have to ask you that I ask everybody that joins the broadcast, and that is, what does TGIF stand for?
Well, this TGIF or in general TGIF? Thank God it's Friday, right?
Well, that would be this TGIF, not that one.
Yeah, you tell me. What does your TGIF mean?
I kind of lost. I'm having some trouble with my internet here. Say that again.
Uh-oh. I said, what does your TGIF mean to you? I'm curious.
It means thank God it's finale. Plain and simple. That's what it is. It's really simple.
There you go.
All right, man. So you've been there and back. You come before a lot of people. You've talked to a lot of people. And when we started talking, which was 3 years ago, because you were on episode 272 back in August of 2023, 3 years ago, right? I think between then and now, AI is like night and day, right?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's that way from last month, but definitely, it's changing so rapidly, it's frustrating for people who are trying to get used to something and then it changes. I think we all have that feeling of like when we buy the new, technology and then a month later something else comes out and we're like, right. I thought I was the latest and greatest and now there's something else. I got to keep learning this stuff. And, truthfully, it can be frustrating because stuff changes so fast. I think that it really boils down to the fact that if you are a lifelong learner and you commit to, whether you're good at learning or not, you commit to, okay, I know that I'm not going to learn something and this is going to be the end all be all, but I'm going to have to commit for the rest of my life that I want to be successful to continue to learn and understand that it is going to continue to evolve. Once you get something, there's going to be another thing. The good news, though, is that when you learn that one thing, it is foundational and you're able to build those blocks on one another. And so it's not like you just learned something last month for nothing. It helps you along the way, but it can be frustrating for people to be like, man, I just learned this one strategy and now this month there's a new one, right?
So, yeah. So, one of the interesting things about AI, hold on one second. I forgot to put my phone on silent. Let's make sure we do that now. Sorry about that. The interesting thing is that, like you were an entrepreneur as a teenager, and then you started. I guess what happened was that I'm going to let you explain it, but you started getting interested in different things, and then you grew there. What drove you? What made you to be that entrepreneur as a teenager, and has that kept you going all the way through?
Yeah, I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm never the smartest person in the room. So it's not like, I know a lot of people who were born super smart, like learning comes easy to them. Learning was not something that came easy to me. And so I don't have the advantage of being a naturally gifted, human being who can just pick stuff up really quick. Again, there's people like that, not me. And so what drove me was, I think, for the people, probably a lot of people listening to this podcast, I would assume, are people who are driven and they want to succeed. Like there's a personality type that is an achiever. And some people are not that way, and that's totally fine, right? Like some people, they're okay with just like a punch in, punch out 9 to 5 job, and that's fulfilling for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that there is a set of people who have a little bit of a different grit, a little bit of a different drive inside of them where they say, I kind of want to be my own boss. I want to scale something. I want to see if I were to push hard, could this happen? And again, I don't think that I had any special setup. I was probably more disadvantaged than the average kid. And studying came hard to me, learning came hard to me, taking notes and all of the stuff that a normal kid might have had an easier time with. I didn't have that. And so that may have played a role into it because I had a decision. It's like, okay, I can either make a choice to really like dig in and learn, how do I study? How do I retain information? How do I take notes? Or I could kind of just be like, I don't really want to do this, but I've always had that achiever type personality, always. And if you have that, you know what that is. If you don't, then you're like, what on earth is he talking about? Where you want to be the best at something. You want to succeed. You want to be the top in your industry at something. And so you work really, really hard to see what is possible. What could I do if I learn this strategy? What could I do if I do this correctly? And that's always been in me since I was literally, I mean, even before I was a teenager. As a kid, I can remember being like, I want to achieve something great. I want to help people learn things. And that's kind of where my path ended up going. You mentioned the whole 6-figure business thing, and a lot of people will introduce me that way. There's something written, I think, online where people have pulled that from, and that just comes from me being a kid and wanting to figure out how can I make money. And so the very first thing, I was at a Sam's Club in North Carolina, and they had a sign that said, hey, this Saturday, Dean Smith, the old coach of the Tar Heels, so Michael Jordan's college coach when he was at North Carolina, Dean Smith is going to be here to sign his new book that's coming out called The Carolina Way. And they had an end cap with some of his books there that you could purchase. And so I think I was 13 years old at that time. And I asked my sisters to borrow money because I didn't have money to purchase those books. But I said, look, I'll pay you back next week. I got an idea that I could purchase those books, as many as I could. I got enough money from my sisters to buy 4 of them, return to Sam's Club on Saturday, wait in line, get them signed, take a picture of those books, and put them on this new website that had recently come out called ebay.com. And so I did that, and I flipped those books and made some money because those books were signed. And then that got me thinking, what other things could I purchase and either modify, or I could just find really good deals and sell stuff? And so I started to research what was, hot on eBay and what sold well, what didn't sell well. And I started walking to different garage sales. Once I ended up, getting my license, I would drive to garage sales on the weekends. I would buy things, research to see what I could sell it for, haggle, try and get stuff for better deals. And then I ended up selling that stuff and flipping that stuff on eBay. And by the time I was 16, I had generated over 6 figures just on flipping on eBay. And so, a lot of people will use that as like an intro piece, like, hey, he built a business, to 6 figures. And, truly, I ended up having a network where we would have people buy specific items I would then receive those items and I would be the one to sell, and then we would split profit. So it ended up growing into a thing. But when I was 13 years old, it was literally just a book from a Sam's Club, and then everything else kind of launched from that in my teenage years.
So I didn't know that story before today, and the reason I asked the question was hoping to get that kind of that would be what it is, because a lot of people, whether it's technology, whether it's learning how to throw a baseball, playing tennis, playing golf, whatever it is, they just care what other people think. For me, I love golf, right? So and I've had a couple of bad years, and I've just realized that I tense up too much, and I care what I kind of think about, what do I look like and everything else. And the answer to the question that I just asked you is significant, simply because a lot of people care what other people think. They fear certain things, right? And I always loved my expression that I've used before in my training and coaching, was to act like a 4-year-old, because they really don't give a shit what other people think, and they're just going to do whatever they want anyway. So it's kind of like, okay, so didn't have to worry about making money. It was just something you want to see if you could do. Nobody was telling you no, yes, whatever. You were just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to go forward and make it. And that's what technology really has to be, in my opinion. Look, back in the early 2000s and late 90s, when the internet started, and I had my own brokerage, I was building technology, and I didn't know that I was doing more than most. And that hurt me, because I really couldn't recruit agents because they were afraid of my technology. I had a cloud before anybody knew what a cloud was, where people could get and move documents on their phones before an iPhone was a big thing. So it's a thing that people just have to like push through and get at it. And here's the next part, is that we talked the other day, and 95% of the people are just using it as, just that shiny object, that new tool, right? And they're not getting it right. So Phil, how do we get AI right, and what's its purpose?
Well, I think 95% of people are using it as a chatbot. They're using it as a ping pong conversation where they ask a question, they get a result, they might iterate and say something back to get a better result, and they go back and forth asking questions and getting answers. And that's fine, but that's 3 years ago fine, right? When ChatGPT became a household name and everyone started using it, people realized, okay, I can ask a question and I can get an answer. And then this thing has evolved, like technology does, to where now it's not just question to answer, it's goal to result. If I give it a goal, it can actually perform tasks for me now and not just give me an answer. And so if that means having an AI agent perform tasks for me like an employee can, then that's a way different thing than having this chatbot where I can ask a question and get an answer. And so most people are stuck because they haven't taken the time to learn, how do I set up an AI employee? Right? We hear these terms and they're buzzwords and it's marketing and it's hype, where we hear agentic AI, we hear AI agents, we hear AI employees, but who is actually out there showing someone, hey, here's what you need to do to set up an employee to perform this task for you, instead of question to answer, it's goal to result. And that's the most important shift in AI right now that anyone could learn, is stop chatting with AI, start delegating jobs to it. Because truthfully, it's not hype. Any type of task that you could give to an employee, most things can be actually automated and done by AI now. It can move a mouse, it can click, it can type, it can work with files, it can go on Chrome, it can do things for you. Now there are some limitations, like you have to be able to log in with your credentials. If there's something that's behind the credentials, you need to log in so that it has access to that thing, or give it the login credentials in order to, it's not going to do that on its own, right? For security reasons. And then, payment stuff. Like, for an example, I could have my AI agent or my AI employee books all my flights for me, but it takes me to the page where I have to be the one to hit submit payment for security purposes, right? So I'm the one who holds the keys when it comes to that human in the loop element. But there's a lot of admin work that I had to do before, whether it's editing videos or, I mean, it can do a lot of different things that my AI employees now do for me. And then I'm just the human in the loop at the very end who reviews it and says, yeah, good, let's hit post. Or, yeah, good, submit payment on this flight.
So, okay, so give me an example of what people are stuck doing and an example of what they, I mean, you gave me an example of what it can do now, but give me an example of what people, they think they're using it properly and, well, they're not using it improperly. They're just not using it to its advantage, like goal to result. Give me an example of what people think is the right way.
Well, I mean, it's truly talking to AI and getting an answer, kind of like I mentioned with the chat for the response, the question to answer. A lot of people are stuck in that loop where, you know, they will have it write them, you know, for real estate, for an example, they'll have them, you know, ChatGPT write a listing description, or they'll have it write them a Facebook post or write an email response. But these are always question to answer, getting the answer, copying it, pasting. You're not really truthfully eliminating a lot of time from, like, that was the promise that we all had with AI, was you're going to get your time back. Like, AI is going to do stuff for you. But if you're stuck in the chat to answer type of world, which most agents are, because they have not evolved into the next step, which is goal to result, having an AI employee working for you, then you're just stuck with going to your computer, typing something in, getting a response, copying it, pasting it, you know, editing it, tweaking it, and then putting it on the platform. It doesn't really save you that much time, right? Like compounding time where it's like performing tasks for you, it's truthfully not that life changing. And so moving into the life changing stuff is where, for an example, I do a lot of, you know, online trainings. And so the
Yes.
moment I hit end on my online training, I don't do anything. And what my AI employee does for me is it processes the video in the cloud, downloads it to our device, it puts it in our editing software, it edits the video the way that I edit videos, you know, has a full SOP on what to edit, what not. Once the video is edited, it uploads it to YouTube, marks it as unlisted because it's not a public thing. This is just like a, you know, training for our people. Titles it, puts the right description, sends the email, writes the email, puts the link in, and sends it to everyone who attended. I literally only have to go to my email platform and see the email, click the link, make sure it works. It always does. And then hit OK, approve. Before, that was a probably 3-4 hour process every single training of downloading the video, editing, upload. I mean, it's a whole thing. So when we talk about moving from question to answer to goal to result, my goal was at the end of these meetings, I want you to take the video. I want you to edit it for me. I want you to send it to the right people at the right time using the right platforms. How do we make this work? And before, that was not possible because we didn't have agentic AI. We didn't have AI agents or AI employees working for us. Before, it was, you know, I could go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I just did this video. Here's what I talked about. Can you write me a YouTube title and a YouTube description? Everything else would have been on me. And that's the difference between question to answer and goal to result. It is life-changing.
So I want to just give a couple of examples and a quick story of years ago when we first started with Facebook ads. It was probably 13, 14 years ago. I started working with now a great friend of mine, Grant Wise, who taught you how to do the system, how to build the CRM for it, how to build, you know, the responses, the auto responses and everything else, and all these different softwares to do that. And I got really, really good at it, Phil. I was really good. And it would take me 3 hours for one ad, setting up the entire process, the response, everything. A couple of years later, Grant, actually less than a year later, I think Grant decided that, you know what, I'm doing too much work trying to help people learn how to use this software rather than teaching how to get good Facebook ads. So he built a software before AI that instead of taking me 3 hours to do something, it took about 10 seconds to do because how we built it, which was amazing to me. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, I had to do some audio, some promo audios for something that I'm working on with KGCI Real Estate Radio, and I had to upload it. So I did it on my phone. Then I had downloaded it. I put it on my Mac, and then I realized that where I was sending it to wasn't going to take an M4A file. It had to be an MP3 file. So I'm saying, oh shit! Now I got to find how to download it, how to convert it, yada yada yada. Then I said, wait a minute, ChatGPT can help me do that. So I asked it, can you convert this to this? Yes, upload it. And in 30 seconds, what would have taken me probably 3 hours to find the right software to download and another hour or so to do it, it did the whole thing for me. Talk about, I mean, what you said was more life-changing than anything else. But for me, it's like little thing. Like years ago when I used Microsoft Publisher all the time, to find these little tweaks was like big for me. I'm talking 20 years ago, right? There was just a little tweak that taught you how to do something that you could have trouble doing. And that's what AI and that's what technology does. So this process that you talked about when you finish a training, okay, do you teach this in one of your courses, or is it something that we have to figure out how to do?
No, I mean, I teach it all the time, and it's not that hard to do. I mean, once you understand, okay, I'm chatting with AI, I'm not having it perform tasks for me. How do I get it to act like an employee?
Right.
An AI employee needs three things. One, it needs a brain. Two, it needs memory. And three, it needs access to your tools. Well, before, it was a lot harder to create one of these AI employees. It was possible. It was just a lot of manual editing, coding. You basically needed to have a software engineer type of brain
Right.
because you needed to connect it to a brain, which was like a knowledge source. And then you had to connect it to a memory to say, look, if it's the smartest thing in the world, but it only remembers what I say today, then I'm going to have to onboard it like it's a new employee every single day. That's not going to save me any time. So then you had to give it some type of memory to be like, how long can it remember stuff? And then you had to access, give it access to all your tools and logins and whatnot to perform actions. Well, now these large language models, so ChatGPT being one, Claude being another, there's several of them, obviously. Those are what we call harnesses. And the AI agent is your employee. And then you select what harness you want to use. And so think of it like a car is a car, or a vehicle is a vehicle. It can get you from point A to point B. That's an AI agent. The make and the model of the car is different. So you could drive a Toyota and it will get you from point A to point B, just like if I drove a Honda that gets me from point A to point B. That could be ChatGPT or Claude, right? The vehicle is the agent, and the make and the model is the harness, which is, what do you want to use? Do you want to use Claude? Do you want to use ChatGPT, et cetera? But the different makes and models have different features between the different makes and models. So some could have a backup camera, some could have lane assist, some could have heated seats, right? Like there are different features for each one and trade-offs for one another. But the whole thing is pick your harness. So do you want to use Claude? Do you want to use ChatGPT? Do you want to use Manus? Do you want to use, what tool? Perplexity. And then to understand how to get from the chatting world to actually performing tasks, one, you want to download the computer desktop version of whatever harness you decide to use. So that means stop accessing ChatGPT through chat.com, right? Download the actual thing to your desktop. So all of these harnesses have desktop applications. So Claude, instead of going to claude.com or claude.ai, you go to claude.com/download and you download it to your computer. Why? So that it can then work on your actual device, on your hard drive. And there's security in there. You only have, it'll have access to whatever you give it access to. So if you want it to clean up all the, apps on your desktop because you have a really messy desktop like mine, well, then you have to give it access to the desktop and then tell it to do that. And it will. It's not like it has full reign of your whole computer. But you want to download the desktop version so that it has access to your computer based on what you give it. And it's able to move a mouse, click, type, use Chrome, and go to different websites for you. That's the whole game. And so you have a brain, which is Claude's brain or ChatGPT's brain. It's built into the harness. You have memory, which is also built into the harness. They've made it so easy because the harness has the brain and the memory. You don't have to build it yourself anymore. So Claude has the brain and has the memory already built in. ChatGPT has the brain, has the memory already built in. You don't have to build something custom like you did years ago. And so now you pick that harness, you automatically have two of the three things that an agent needs. You have the memory and you have the brain. Now all you need to do is connect the tools to it. And so all of these harnesses have what are called like connectors. And in there you can connect your different tools. So you could connect Gmail to it, you could connect your Drive, you could connect all these different tools. There's hundreds and hundreds of different tools that you can connect. You can even connect your CRM to it. So as a real estate agent, if you want to fully run your CRM from Claude, you can do that, right? And so now you go from just chatting with it, going to claude.com or chat.com and typing a question, getting an answer to, okay, now I've downloaded the desktop version of this harness that I've decided to use. And now I've connected my tools to it so that my AI agent has a brain, it has memory, and it has access to my tools. And just think of it like hiring an actual employee. If you were to hire an employee and they had a brain, which I hope they do, and they have a memory so that you don't have to re-explain stuff to them every single day, and you never gave them a laptop or you never gave them a login to your Gmail, if you're like, hey, I want you to manage my email for me, but you never gave them access to your Gmail, there's nothing they could do. Same thing with an AI employee. You have to give it access to your tools. And so in the connectors, they have these native connectors inside of Claude where they have hundreds of them that you can go through and be like, oh yeah, I use Dropbox or I use this. Now, the problem here that most people run into is there's only several hundred of these. There's not every single tool in the entire world. So if you're using, say, Follow Up Boss as a CRM and you're a real estate agent, there's no Follow Up Boss native connector inside of Claude. So then what do? It's actually a much easier thing than people realize. First off, Follow Up Boss has what's called an API token. So you can go into your Follow Up Boss in the admin section. There's an API section where they will give you a token that you can then connect with Claude, and then you can fully connect almost every feature of Follow Up Boss via API token, and you just give it to your AI agent to connect, and then it can do anything for you and perform actions for you. A simpler way, or a way that a lot of people will do, is there's also called something Zapier, which most of you might have heard of. It's a tool on the internet that connects tools together, right? So think of it as like duct tape, right? It's going to connect two things together.
Right. Exactly.
If you go to zapier.com/MCP, M as in Mary, C as in Charlie, P as in Phil, right? MCP. There are 9,000 additional tools that Claude does not have as like a native connector that you can connect to your Claude via Zapier. And so those are ways to connect tools. But once you have that set up, you've got the thing downloaded to your computer. It has a brain and it has a memory now because it's inside of the harness. And then after that, you just connect your tools, and then the world is your oyster at that point.
So when you say you have to give it access to your tools, are you giving it the login and password to, like, say, your MLS? Can it do that? Can it perform, like,
yeah,
for instance, I do lists every Monday. Can I have it do those lists?
Yes, it can absolutely do those lists. Some MLSs have MCP or API connections with these tools. Some of them don't. And so it's going to depend on your specific MLS. But even if it doesn't, Claude is able to act like an employee. These harnesses can act like employees because they can move a mouse, they can click, and they can type. So if you don't have a special connection through your MLS, well, guess what? The AI agent can open up a Chrome browser and it can go to any site. Now, again, you're going to have to give the credentials, right? So you would have to already be logged into the MLS. But at that point, if you have your MLS logged into in your Chrome browser, then you could be like, hey, I've got the MLS open on my Chrome browser. Do this thing for me. And it is able to do anything that you could do with a mouse, clicking, typing, etc.
But it can't log into your MLS without you.
It would not be able to put in your credentials. That's a security thing where it's like, we're not going to put in credentials. and we're not going to put in payment information. Those are the two kind of security features that it's like, make sure you have logged in and then allow the agent to go to town.
So in other words, you can build a process on Claude, and like if I'm going to do this list every Monday and it takes me 30, 40 minutes to do, I can just open up my MLS browser, go to Claude and say, Claude, build this list for me now. The access is open.
Yep. And if it's something that you do on a schedule or every week or every day or whatever, then you tell it that, and it actually sets up an automatic routine every day, every week, whatever your schedule is, and it will do it without you even having to ask.
That's amazing. Okay. So basically what we've done is we've just saved me a ton of time. And I like that. Look, you know what? Here's the thing. I mean, I think it's more important for a lot of people as we grow into our business and into our lives. And I don't mean to sound as I'm for older people or agents been in business a long time, but here's the thing. And you had said this earlier in something else. A lot of times we just don't want to do this shit anymore, you know? And I think now we have, oh, I'll hire somebody. And everybody says, well, you know what? If I got to hire somebody, I can do it faster myself rather than me trying to explain it to them and have them do it. And then they do it wrong. And then I got to go back. But what you've just said in this process here is that I can explain it properly once, and they're going to do it what I told them to do exactly forever.
Yep. And it's just like everything else. You're going to do it once, and it's going to take you longer to, quote, teach Claude or show Claude your process, because if you were to just do it yourself, you could knock it out in 10 minutes. Well, the moment you got to do step-by-step instructions, it might take you an hour, right? So you're like, okay, this is going to take me 6 times as long this one time. But once you've done that and you've set up your schedule, well, the 6th time that thing runs without you and you've saved 10 minutes every single time, every time after that, you are exponentially saving time. And so you're going to have to say, you know what, I'm okay with taking a little bit extra time to set this thing up, because I know that every time it runs from here on out, I am saving time.
Okay. So how does one learn how to do all these things? I know you teach about this, and I want to hit this because, you know, I don't want to wait to the end, which I will do, but I want to also say, how do people learn how to do all this stuff? Is it through philstringer.com? Is it Anthropic? Who is it? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I do these trainings all the time. And so, you know, one of the best ways to learn this is to learn a couple different things. One, you have to learn what an AI agent is. And so I do a training on, regardless of what harness you use, I don't care if you use Manus or Gemini or whatever, right? You have to know what an AI agent is, like an AI employee. So I do a training on that. I do a free training. Every once in a while, we'll run that training for sure. And then the second one is, you know, learning how to use your actual harness. Like I personally use Claude for my harness. And so learning where those buttons are, where are the connectors? How do I connect stuff via Zapier? Those are the two things that you really want to learn that can be helpful for you. And so that's why I do those trainings all the time. If you want my most recent training, I do different topics all the time, but it's training.philstringer.com, and it will pull up the most recent, the next training that I'm going to do specifically for the AI agents one. Like if you're interested right now, I just did that one a couple weeks ago. And so that's not the next one I'm doing right now, but we do have those replays where you can actually go on and watch the video on your own time on demand. So training.philstringer.com/AI agents will give you the training on what is an AI agent.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a crazy question for you, right? What's wrong with AI? Is there anything?
Oh, yeah, 100%. People are using it to try and do the work that a human should do. There's a lot of work that AI should take off your plate. That's the admin work. That's the stuff that the reporting, right? It takes me 10 minutes every time. That's taking you away from the revenue generating work that you do, right? That's taking you away from the relationship building. The moment people start using AI to replace the relationship building, it's gone too far. AI should never replace the relationship building that should be yours. That should be client facing. That should be the revenue generating, things that you do. AI is great at freeing you up so that you have more time to be more human, but a lot of people will try and use AI to take and replace that human piece. It never should.
So, in other words, people are using it to replace themselves in business, which I'll use an example of years ago when virtual assistants were the new big thing. That's got to be 20 some years ago. I had agents come to me, newer agents that wanted to do business. So, you know what? I want to hire a virtual assistant to make my phone calls for me. And I always said, why? Well, I don't like to do the calls, so I'm going to have them do it. I said, Willie, are they you? Are they going to build a relationship for you? No, they're just going to get me the appointments and I'll go on the appointments. To me, I thought that was the wrong way to use a VA, right? To use a remote team member, which was what they really are. Is that the same thing as what we're talking about here?
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, client facing stuff, you want to be you. And I'm a little different than the other, quote, AI influencers or AI trainers out there because, they want you to use AI for everything. And the sexy hype stuff is what gets views on Instagram. I mean, I don't care about any of the sexy hype stuff. I care about what's good for business and what's good for your brand. And if it doesn't save you time or make you more money or sell you more homes, I'm not interested in it. And I think that it does more damage replacing those type of relationship type things. It does more damage to your brand in the long term by replacing that because people won't trust that it's you anymore, right? They already have a hard time trusting people. We want them to know, like, and trust us. And we're removing that trust by replacing the relationship stuff with AI. And a great example of this, and I'm kind of in the minority here. I hate the AI generated avatars. You see like the avatars that you can create that look and sound like you and people are posting them online. Sure, it saves you time because you don't have to sit down and hit record. But right now, like, people can tell that it's not you and people already have a hard time trusting. So if you're going to put yourself out there and it's not going to be you, it's a fake Phil Stringer, fake voice, you're ruining that trust level. And I feel like authenticity and being genuine and building relationships is the number one thing people are going to start to crave as AI gets bigger, because no one's going to know what's real, what's fake. They're going to crave the real. And so when it comes to putting yourself on camera, putting yourself out there, or talking to people on the phone, right? Those type of things should never be replaced by an AI bot, in my opinion, right now. Do I reserve the right to change that within a couple of years? Sure, technology could change and get better, but right now it's just not the move, in my opinion.
Okay, so in concert with that question of what's wrong, what's bad about AI?
Well, I think it's getting us. We're probably a lot lazier because it's removing the thinking process. Now I'm all for it saving you time by generating reports and doing things like that. Like the video editing process is the same for me every single time. It takes me 4 hours. If I can remove that so that I can then use those 4 hours to learn a new skill or to build relationships, that's what I want to replace. I want to replace the admin work with stuff that's going to actually either help me learn a new skill or help me connect with someone. And so what's bad about AI, yeah, it's causing us to just, like, we don't even think anymore, right? And we can get addicted to this thing in our pocket to where we just start asking it and we turn our brain off, right?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I want to use AI as an example of something, or use it in this example where, I've been a broker owner. Was a broker owner for 21 years, and recruiting was very important, as it is today with, the company I'm with and everything that I do. And it's also, one of the things they say is that if you need to grow your business, lead generate. That can be recruiting, that can be prospecting, that can be a lot of things. And let's just use recruiting as an example. A lot of people will still call me today and say, hey, we've seen how great your work is. And if they're not really, and to me, they're morons because I don't do a lot of business that people can see, right? So they say I'm a great agent. Thank you very much. But if you look at it, I probably only got 2 deals a year on the board. I got everything else nobody can see, right? And then, but the thing is that, are you interested in growing your business? I say, yeah. How are you going to grow my business? And the answer is, well, we're 100% company. We'll give you a CRM. We'll help you with marketing, and we can get you some leads. Now, to me, that's not growing my company, my business. I mean, what growing my business is to help me do more business, either in the same amount of time or less time. We do that with systems and processes, right? And how to plug into these systems and processes. There's one word for that. It's called leverage, right? And what you've just told me and how you've discussed AI, Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, is it provides us with a kind of leverage never seen before, where if you pay $20 a month for Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it is, think of that as the initial work you've got to put in on a project. And you've just created so much freaking leverage for yourself that, you know what? You want to work 20 hours a week and make the same amount of money? You now can.
Yep.
And it's not anybody bullshitting you by saying, hey, well, I'll help you make twice as much money as you're making now because I'm 100% concept. Does that all make sense to you? And how does that expand as time goes on?
The whole name of the game and everything I've been teaching for 3 years boils down to the word leverage. It's literally anytime you can increase your output while maintaining or decreasing your input, you've created leverage. And the business owner with the most leverage ends up winning every single time. And so the only thing I teach, if I give anyone anything, it's, hey, I'm going to teach you these strategies. I'm going to give you this, with AI and teach you how to do this so that you can increase your output while maintaining or decreasing your input so you can do more with less. That is the whole name of the game.
Is there one platform better than the other? Is there one harness better than the other?
That's like asking me like what brand of car is better, because they all have their own features, right? Personally, I think it's almost the similar question to what's the best CRM for real estate? It's the one you're going to use, right? So if you don't use something with bells and whistles, but you would use a spreadsheet all day long, that spreadsheet's going to get you further than the one with bells and whistles that you never touch because you never touch it, right? So I would say whatever you are comfortable with using and whatever you're actually going to use. For me personally, that is Claude.
Claude. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, there are certain ways to use Claude, and I want everybody to understand that. As I spoke earlier about how I built technology for my company, and as time went on, and I sold my business, I kind of walked away a little bit from technology, and it has become increasingly difficult for me to really dig into it and go deep into it. And what I suggest everybody do is to reach out to Phil and go. I guess best place to go is philstringer.com, right?
Philstringer.com's got, that's the homepage. And, if you're looking for trainings, it's training.philstringer.com. We'll have the most recent training on the homepage of the main website, though. You'll have what's coming up next too. So.
Okay. So something that's become increasingly interesting in questions about AI, ChatGPT, Claude, and everything else is that thing that's been around for a while. I think you've heard of it, called Google, right? Google has changed a bit, right? Instead of being a place where you go to search for things, now you go there to search for answers. Because if you look at Google, it's going to give you a summary of what your question is at the beginning, right? And then it's going to, if you go to Gmail and you open up a conversation, it's going to give you the synopsis of that conversation, which, by the way, I just saw the first time 2 weeks ago, and I said, holy shit, this really helps me.
Mm-hmm.
What is Google as important as ChatGPT? And what I mean by that is, the big question you see now in all the marketing of AI gurus and all that stuff is, will ChatGPT recommend you to be a listing agent, right? So which is more important? Is it the AI platforms, or is it Google, or is it both?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, it's funny because my very next training is how to get ChatGPT to recommend you. It's called AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. So we have SEO, which is, the game that we've been playing. We know is search engine optimization. How do we rank? How do we get clicks? How do we get on that first page of Google? So when someone types in, who's the best real estate agent in my city, how do I show up? Right? That's the SEO game. Been around forever. Now it's AEO, which is how do I get my name to come up when someone goes into ChatGPT or Claude or Grok and says, asks a question, right? Who is the best real estate agent near me? How do I get to be in that answer? Where's it pulling the information from? And so that's the whole game of AEO. Now, there is not one game that is more important than another because SEO is the foundation of AEO. If your SEO is strong, it helps your AEO significantly. But there are different steps to increase your AEO score because the large language models pull from different sources. It's not the same as a Google search where you have a bunch of different links. It pulls from different sources and then it creates this answer, and that answer is different every time, and it's going to be different every time. And so how do you get to be the most likely recommended source when it answers that question? And there's tons of different strategies behind that based on what you should put on your website and things that you want to have on other people's websites in order to be that recommended trusted answer.
All right. So, okay. So it's basically you're looking for something different on both places. But do you think that ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, will replace Google? And is Google not as valued as it used to be?
It's not that it's not as valued, it's just the game has changed. So you've noticed that even when you Google something, you get the AI generated answer. So if I were to Google, how many calories is in 4 ounces of chicken, rather than going through a list of links and probably getting my answer if I read the article, it just
Right.
tells me, right? The AI generated answer tells me. So what's happening is people are Googling, and 70-80% of these questions, they're not even clicking on a link. So if you were doing the SEO game to pay for a click on those keywords, they're not even clicking anything. They're just getting their answer and they're leaving. Okay. So people get now the data is pretty fresh on this, but it's about 0.5% as a good average of like what people will get as far as clients coming from AEO. It's not a lot. Like it's a small number, but the crazy thing is that it's showing that AEO clients are 14 to 15 times more valuable than a Google search, because by the time they're reaching out to you, they've already decided that you're the best because they trust their large language model, ChatGPT, whatever. It's almost like they're getting a referral because ChatGPT is their best friend and they just told you that Phil's the best real estate agent in North Carolina and they trust it. So these results, even though they're not as much as Google right now, they are much more valuable because they're already sold.
And that training you're going to be doing soon, right? So if you go to philstringer.com, that training is there to sign up for?
Yeah, philstringer.com. It's the one right on the homepage right now because we're doing it next week. It's August 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Hey, man. So you've been doing this a long time. Has there ever been something that AI can do that when you were doing your work and learning and as you grow your business and everything of teaching AI, that you said, holy shit, that's amazing? Does that happen to you too?
Oh, I mean, every time something new comes out, I've had those moments where it's like I cannot. Like the first time it edited a video for me, I was like, "Are you kidding me? It can edit videos now too." I mean, that stuff, it just continues to blow me away.
Is there, just as an aside, is there an editing software that uses AI? I mean, a lot of people will use Opus Clips. I mean, is that something that does that too, or is it just something that you developed with Claude to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's several different tools out there. Opus Clip is obviously a popular one for taking long form videos and cutting it up into short form.
Right.
But for long form editing and stuff like that, like Claude has the ability to act as an employee, and it actually opens up my editing software on my computer, loads in the video, cuts the beginning stuff that doesn't make sense out, cuts the ending out, and then it literally chops it up and makes it how I want it. And so it's a pretty simple edit, but it's something where it took me a couple hours to do before. Now I don't have to do it.
So, Phil, what's next? What are we going to see in the next 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years? What are we going to see, man? What do we have to look forward to? Do you have the vision? Can you see what's coming?
Dude, I get surprised every time. So I don't like to pretend that I have the vision of like an Elon Musk, right? I'm just kind of riding the wave. And when it comes out, I'm learning it as fast as I can. But I'm telling you, like, we've gone from the chat age to now performing tasks where we have AI employees. It's only going to get better where, AI is replacing tasks that we have to do. And I think it's important for us to learn how to get AI to take these tasks off of our plate. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. You might as well learn before everyone else does so that you have more time to spend on the things that matter. And so coming up next, man, I'm super excited because it's only going to get more intelligent. It's only going to, you're going to have a whole Jarvis situation going on where you talk to your AI agent or your employee and it literally lines up everything for you, gets everything done, and gives you that time freedom back to where, I know we're worried about it replacing us. It is going to replace tasks, and it's already replacing tasks. So learn how to get those tasks off your plate so that you can use that time savings to then say, okay, what can only I do? Right? Like what are the things that AI can't replace, and focus your time on really crafting those type of things.
I think it's really interesting, through the early 2000s up through COVID, there really wasn't a lot of change. There wasn't a lot of things going on. Zillow came in, and that was a game changer. That was a huge disruptor. And then there are a lot of copies of Trulia and Redfin, and Realtor was doing the same thing. Everybody's copying them. We weren't going to give our information to anybody, and then all of a sudden everybody's giving the information. So those were the game changers in the early 2000s. 6 years ago, right after COVID, I had a very, very well-known guest on this broadcast by the name of Tom Ferry. And we talked about the changes over the years. And one of the last questions I asked him was, Tom, what's the next disruptor? Do you see any disruptors coming soon? And he said, no, there's nothing out there. And I see all this stuff all the time. There's nothing out there right now. This is 6 years ago. Okay. That's not a long time ago. What happened 6 months ago with AI? I don't think I could ask that question of anybody that's in any kind of know that could say nothing's coming, because it's just like, it's the barn door is open. You can't close it to imagination and building. I mean, I always say the same thing, Phil. Yes, I am a person that grew up in the 60s and 70s, and there was this TV show that is still famous today called Star Trek. And if you go back and watch the 60s episodes of Star Trek, you will notice that almost everything that was on that TV show we have today, except for the transporter. And I'm not sure that's not next. Anyway, man, I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast today. So we talked about philstringer.com, at philstringer. The stuff is on there. But Phil, I got two things for you, two questions. Well, one question and one comment. How do I help you grow your business?
Oh man, I mean, it's just, having the platform to be able to talk to people and help people is what I'm looking to do. And so anytime I can help agents learn this stuff, that's the game for me. It's just helping people raise the bar.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, there was so much more we could go into today, and I think we did really well with what the time we had. And last but not least, you had one before, you'll get one again. 3 years ago, and now you get the new one. Man, I'm looking forward to this. Everybody, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And we'll look forward to another episode next week. This was episode 430, 424 weeks in a row. Forgot to say that in the beginning. I don't know why. Anyway, Phil, thanks so much. Stay on as we go off. Everybody, we'll see you next week.